My name is Erin Wells. I'm 29 years old. On a Thursday night in February, at 11:47 p.m., my father removed me from the family group chat. Not a conversation, not a warning, not even a text to my number directly, just a gray bar at the top of the thread. You were removed from this group by Dennis Wells. I stared at it for about 30 seconds. Then I put my phone face down on my kitchen counter, opened my laptop and started making a list. That list would take 6 days to work through. By the end of those 6 days, my father was texting me from a stranger's phone because his own line had gone dark. Let me explain. The group chat was called Wells Family. It had been running on iMessage since 2019, when my Aunt Terry convinced my mother to finally get an iPhone. 7 people in it. My dad Dennis, my mom Patricia, my younger brother Caleb, my Aunt Terry, my cousins Derek and Aisha, and me. We used it the way families use group chats. Birthday reminders. Photos of food. My mother forwarding weather alerts that nobody asked for. Caleb posting his monthly sales numbers from the dealership like it was a press release. The vacation had been my father's idea. He announced it on January 4th, a Saturday morning. Big year, he typed. Wells family trip. Myrtle Beach. Last week of June. Week-long rental. I already looked it up. Great places available. Someone needs to book it. Then, Erin, you're on your computer all day. You handle it. Not a question. Not a request. A directive posted publicly in the family thread. I handled it. I spent 2 hours that Saturday cross-referencing rental platforms, comparing square footage, parking distance to the beach, cancellation policies. I found a 5-bedroom house on Ocean Boulevard. Sleeps 10, private pool, outdoor shower, 2 blocks from the water, $2,400 for the week. I paid with my Amex My Card, my account and dropped the booking confirmation in the chat. Nice work, son. My dad typed. My mom sent 3 heart emojis. Caleb sent a thumbs up. Nobody mentioned reimbursement. I didn't bring it up that day. Or the week after. I told myself there was time. June was 5 months away. People would get to it. But February came and nobody had sent anything. Not $50. Not a message asking for my Venmo. Nothing. So on February 11th, a Tuesday, I posted in the chat. Hey everyone. Just a quick reminder about the Myrtle Beach deposit. I put $2,400 on my card when we booked in January. If everyone could chip in their share whenever you get a chance, that'd be great. Happy to break it down if it helps. I kept the tone light. I added a small wave emoji. I thought I was being reasonable. My dad's response came 22 minutes later. Erin, we said we'd handle it. Stop making everything about money. This is a family vacation, not a transaction. Very disappointing that this is how you choose to handle things. My Aunt Terry sent a crying laughing emoji. Caleb didn't respond. My mom typed, honey, let's just relax and be grateful. I'll talk to your father. I wrote 3 different responses and deleted all of them. Then, at 11:47 p.m., the gray bar appeared. You were removed from this group by Dennis Wells. I sat with that for a long time. The apartment was quiet. There was a half-eaten bowl of pasta on the counter. My laptop was open to a work project. I'm an IT infrastructure specialist. I work remotely for a consulting firm out of Austin. And I'd been in the middle of configuring a VPN deployment for a client when my dad's message came through. The kind of work that doesn't look like much from the outside. My dad said once, at Thanksgiving 2 years ago, that he didn't understand what I did. Caleb sells cars, he said. That makes sense. What do you actually do? I tried to explain. He nodded the way people nod when they've already moved on. I closed the pasta, opened a Google Doc, made the list. I need you to understand how I got here, because the group chat was just the surface. Underneath it was something I had been quietly building and quietly carrying for years, and the only way any of what happened next makes sense is if you understand the full weight of it. I moved out at 22. My parents' house is in Youngstown. I live in Columbus, 90 minutes south. When I left, I had my first IT job entry-level help desk, $38,000 a year. My dad had complicated feelings about it. Why Columbus? He asked. He meant, why not stay? He meant, why not trades? He meant, why not something I can explain to Ray at the job site? I went anyway. I got better at the work. I got promoted. I built a skill set. Last year I made $91,000. I say that not to brag, but because it becomes relevant when we talk about what my father said in March of 2024. That's coming. Stay with me. 3 months after I moved out, my parents called with a problem. The internet was slow. Could I look at it? I drove up on a Saturday, replaced the router, upgraded their service plan, set up a network extender for the back of the house where the signal died. Fixed in about 90 minutes. My dad clapped me on the shoulder. Good kid. A year after that, they needed new phones. Their carrier plan was outdated, overpriced, locked into a grandfathered rate that had quietly gotten worse year over year. I was already on a good plan. I put them on my account. My mom's line, my dad's line, my line $187 a month. They'd chip in $80 and I'd cover the difference. That was the arrangement. Informal, but agreed. A year after that, Caleb needed a phone. He was 20, working the dealership part-time, not quite settled. Just until I get on my feet, he said. I added a fourth line. The bill went to $243. The family contribution stayed at $80. 2 years after that, my Aunt Terry's carrier was charging her $55 a month for 2 gigabytes of data on a prepaid plan. My dad asked if I could add her. She's family. I added a fifth line. The bill hit $287 a month. The family contribution, still $80. I was covering $207 a month for 4 other people's cell service, not because they kept asking, it had just become the arrangement. An assumption. The way things were. Erin knows about these things. Erin handles it. There was also the internet bill. In 2021, my parents' ISP raised their rate from $59 to $89 when a promotional period expired. My dad called me frustrated. They want $89 now for the same service. That's crazy, right? I looked into it. The problem was the account was in his name with an expired promo code. The cleanest fix was to transfer the account to my name and apply for a new customer discount. I did. Monthly cost dropped to $54. Auto pay from my checking account. Solved. I told my dad I'd set it up and he'd just give me $54 a month going forward. He nodded. Of the 39 months since, he'd paid me for 11. Taxes. My parents had been paying H&R Block $320 a year to file a return with 2 W-2s. No investments. Standard deduction. In 2020, my mom mentioned it and I said I could do it. I sat down with TurboTax and filed both federal and state in under 2 hours. Found a deduction they'd been missing for years. They got back $680 instead of the $440 they'd expected. My dad told his friend Ray about it. Every year since, I've done their taxes. Never charged them. It was maybe 6 hours of work. It was just what I did. Tech support was its own category. The calls came every few weeks. My mom's printer wasn't connecting. My dad's laptop had a virus. Caleb couldn't get his work email set up on his phone. My aunt couldn't get past 2-factor authentication on her bank's login page. I'd troubleshoot by phone, by screen share, or I'd drive up. Once I kept a log, just out of curiosity, for 3 consecutive months. 11 calls, 6 of them over an hour, 2 in-person visits. One of those visits was a 4-hour round trip to fix a problem that turned out to be a loose HDMI cable behind the TV. I kept helping. I helped because I could. I helped because they were my family and I was the one with the knowledge, and it felt good, genuinely good, to be useful. The problem was what happened when I needed something in return. In October 2023, I was short on rent. I'd had an unexpected car repair $1,800, alternator, and my rent came due the same week. I asked my dad for $400, just to bridge the gap. I'd pay him back by the 1st of the month. He said he'd look at what they had and called back 2 days later. We're a little tight right now, son. Can you figure it out? I figured it out. I pulled from savings. I didn't bring it up again. 3 months later, my dad sent a photo to the family group chat. A new 7.5-inch LG flat screen, still in the box in the living room. Treat yourself once in a while, my Aunt Terry replied. Heart emojis from my mom. In March 2024, I tried to have a real conversation about the phone plan. In person, at Sunday dinner, I said I'd been carrying 4 extra lines for a few years, and the family's contribution hadn't kept pace with the actual cost. I wasn't asking for back pay. I just wanted to adjust going forward to something fair. My dad put his fork down and looked at me like I'd said something in a foreign language. You're doing fine, he said. You make good money. I said it wasn't about whether I could afford it, it was about fairness. He said, I raised you for 18 years. I don't think I owe you a phone bill. My mother changed the subject. Caleb looked at his plate. I drove home 90 minutes in silence. I didn't bring it up again. Not until the vacation deposit. And we know how that went. So when the gray bar appeared at 11:47 p.m., and the thread told me I'd been removed by Dennis Wells, I understood exactly what it meant. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't him hitting the wrong button. It was the clearest possible statement of the position he'd held for years. My help was assumed. My voice was a disruption. My money was expected. My needs were inconvenient. When I asked to be treated like an equal, I got removed. I opened the Google Doc. The list had 7 items. I read it back once, slowly. Then I went to bed. The next morning was a Friday. I woke at 6:30, made coffee, sat down at the kitchen table, started at the top. Item 1. The phone plan. I logged into my carrier account. 5 lines. All under my name, all on my Amex AutoPay. I looked at the billing history. The last full contribution from the family side had been in August. It was now February. 6 months of falling short, then nothing. I did the rough math. I'd covered close to $1,200 more than I should have in that window alone. I navigated to the payment settings and changed the autopay to a prepaid card I kept for subscriptions I didn't need on my main account. Then I zeroed out the prepaid balance. The autopay would process in 11 days. On that date, it would fail. The carrier would give a grace period, they always do, but after that, service would suspend. I didn't send a notification. The account was in my name. I wasn't obligated to explain. Item 2. The Internet. Logged into the ISP portal. The Youngstown account. In my name, autopay from checking. Changed the payment method to the same empty prepaid card. Billing cycle would hit in 18 days. Same result on the other end. Item 3. Streaming. My Netflix was a standard plan. Household sharing enabled. My mom and Caleb both had profiles. I went into account settings and removed their access. Didn't cancel the plan. Just removed them quietly. Same with the Hulu account I'd added my mom to during COVID because she'd wanted to watch something and I'd just done it without thinking. The way I always just did things without thinking. Item 4. Taxes. It was mid-February. My parents usually sent their documents in the first week of March. I drafted an email and saved it without sending. It said, "Hi Mom and Dad. I won't be able to do your taxes this year. You may want to reach out to H&R Block or a local CPA. If you go before March 15th, there's usually no wait. I'd recommend bringing both W-2s and any 1099s. Professional, clear, saved in drafts." Item 5. Remote access. I had AnyDesk installed on both my parents' computers. I'd set it up years ago to troubleshoot remotely. I opened the console and revoked both access IDs. If they called me for tech support and I wasn't available, I wanted to make sure I couldn't just quietly fix it from my desk in Columbus. They'd have to find someone else or figure it out. Item 6. Emergency contacts. My parents had me listed as emergency contact on their home security system, the one I'd helped them set up and linked to my phone number for alerts. I logged into the security portal and removed my number from the notification list. I also sent a message through their GP's patient portal saying I was no longer the appropriate emergency contact and asking them to update their records. Polite. Factual. Item 7 was last. The hardest one. Not because it was complicated, but because it was final. The Myrtle Beach reservation. I logged into the rental platform, pulled up the booking. The cancellation policy was clear. Cancel before April 1st for a full refund. It was February 15th. I was inside the window by 6 weeks. I read the policy 3 times. Then I clicked cancel. The confirmation came 2 minutes later. Refund of $2,400 to your American Express ending in 7,724. Please allow 5 to 7 business days. I sat back. The list was complete. Not everything had activated yet. The phone lines wouldn't suspend for 11 more days, the internet in 18. The streaming might go unnoticed until someone tried to load something. But the vacation cancellation was immediate. Within 20 minutes, an automated email went to my father from the rental platform. Booking cancellation confirmation, Ocean Boulevard, Myrtle Beach. Reservation dates June 22-29. Reservation canceled by account holder. He'd booked nothing. I'd booked everything. The account was mine. The card was mine. The cancellation was mine. I made another cup of coffee and waited to see how long it took him to notice. The answer was 4 hours. At 2:11 p.m., my phone rang. My dad's number. I let it go to voicemail. He didn't leave one. At 2:14 he called again. No message. At 2:19, my mom called. No message. At 2:31 a text from her. Erin, please call us. Something happened with the vacation rental? At 2:47, a text from Caleb. Bro, Dad's losing it. What happened with Myrtle Beach? I read all of them. I put my phone face down. I went back to the VPN deployment I'd been working on Thursday night when this whole thing started. I worked until 6 p.m., ate dinner, watched something on the TV, and went to bed at 10. That was day 1. There were 5 more to go. Day 2 was a Saturday. I know people expect a silence like that to feel dramatic, like you're waiting in a bunker, watching a countdown on the wall. It wasn't like that. It was a regular Saturday. I cleaned my apartment, went to the grocery store, picked up a 6-pack of something I'd been meaning to try. I came home, put on a podcast, cooked a real meal for the first time in 2 weeks. Chicken thighs with roasted vegetables. I ate at my kitchen table and watched the light change on the Columbus skyline outside my window. My phone had 21 notifications by the time I checked it at 8 p.m. 11 missed calls spread across the day. 4 from my dad, 3 from my mom, 2 from Caleb, 1 from my Aunt Terry, 1 from a number I didn't recognize with a Youngstown area code. 16 text messages. I read them in order slowly, the way you read something when you want to understand it completely before you respond. My dad at 9:17 a.m. call me back. This isn't funny. My dad at 11:02, Erin. I'm talking to you. My mom at 11:45. Honey, your father is very upset. We need to understand what happened with the reservation. Can you please just call? Caleb at 1:14 p.m. Dude, seriously, what is going on? Myrtle Beach is canceled? My dad at 2:30. You want to act like a child, fine. But you owe us an explanation. My Aunt Terry at 3:08. Erin, sweetheart, your mother is very upset. I don't know what happened, but please reach out. My dad at 5:52. I'm not going to keep calling, but this is not over. My mom at 7:44 p.m. Erin, I'm worried. Please just let us know you're okay. We can work everything else out. I read them all once and set the phone down. Ate the rest of my chicken. Did the dishes. Went to bed at 10:30. What I didn't do once across the entire 6 days was respond angry. I didn't type out something long and righteous and send it at midnight. I didn't draft an explanation. I didn't ask for an apology. I just didn't answer. Not because I was trying to punish anyone, not in the way people mean when they say that. I just had nothing to say yet. The list was working. The situation was clarifying itself without my help. All I had to do was wait. Day 3. Sunday. Caleb drove to my apartment. I didn't know he was coming. I looked out my window at 11 a.m. and saw his truck parked on the street below. He buzzed up. I let him in because Caleb and I had always had a different kind of relationship than the one I had with my parents. He was the golden child and I knew it, and he probably knew it too. But between just the two of us, it had never felt like competition. It had always just felt like brothers. He came in, looked around the apartment like he was checking that I was alive, and sat on the couch. He was wearing a hoodie and had the expression of someone who had been talked into doing something he wasn't sure about. "Mom and Dad are pretty freaked out," he said. "I know," I said. "What happened? Like, why did you cancel the whole trip?" I sat down across from him. I thought about how to say it. "Caleb," I said, "when Dad posted in the chat that someone needed to book the house, and told me to handle it, did you know he meant I'd be paying for the whole thing myself?" He shifted a little. "I figured everyone would chip in." "Did you chip in?" He looked at the floor. "I was going to." "The deposit was January 4th, I said. "It's February 16th. 6 weeks. I didn't hear a word about money from anybody." He didn't say anything for a moment. Then, "You could have just said something earlier." "I did say something," I said. "I said it in the chat. That's why Dad removed me." He rubbed his face. He was pissed. "He thought you were making a scene." "A scene," I said. "I asked for reimbursement on money I spent for a family vacation. That's a scene." Caleb didn't answer that. He sat there for a minute, and then he said something I didn't expect. "How much money have you spent on this family? Like, overall?" I looked at him. "You want the number?" He nodded. I went to my laptop. I had a spreadsheet. I'd built it Friday night after I finished the list, not for anyone else, just for myself, to see the shape of it clearly. I turned the screen toward him. The phone plan, running total since I added the family, roughly $6,200 in excess coverage over what they'd contributed. The internet, 39 months minus 11 months of payment, $980. The vacation deposit, $2,400. The taxes, conservatively valued at what H&R Block would have charged, $1,600 over 5 years. Tech support, impossible to price, but I'd put a conservative hourly rate on it, $3,400. Total conservative estimate, $14,580. Caleb stared at the screen for a while. He didn't say it was wrong. He didn't argue the numbers. "Does Dad know this?" he finally said. "He knows the phone plan," I said. "I tried to talk to him about it last March. He told me he raised me for 18 years and didn't owe me a phone bill." Caleb was quiet. He looked at the floor. Then he said, "I'll pay you my share of the vacation." Not an offer, exactly. More like a decision he was making in real time. "I know you will," I said. He left around noon. He hugged me at the door, which we didn't usually do. I think he was processing something. I let him. Day 4. Monday. I sent the tax email. I'd had it sitting in drafts since Friday. I read it one more time. "Hi Mom and Dad. I won't be able to do your taxes this year," and hit send at 8:14 a.m. Before I opened anything for work. My mom called at 9 too. I didn't answer. At 9:47 she left a voicemail. The only voicemail anyone left during those 6 days. I listened to it once, sitting in my kitchen with my coffee. Her voice was careful, trying to stay calm. "Erin, it's Mom. I got your email about the taxes. I don't understand what's happening. Your father and I want to talk. We can work out the vacation thing. Whatever you need. But the taxes are due in April, and we've always done them together. Please just call me back. We love you." I played it once. I didn't replay it. I appreciated that she said they loved me, and I believed she meant it, and it didn't change anything. The streaming access had been removed Friday morning. It was now Monday and nobody had mentioned it. Apparently the weekend had passed without anyone trying to open Netflix or Hulu at my parents' house. I'd wondered how long it would take. I found out at 3:11 p.m., when my dad texted from his number still working at this point, 11 days from suspension. "Your mother can't access Netflix. What did you do?" Not a question mark. A period. I didn't respond. At 4:45, "Erin, I'm not playing games. Fix the Netflix." At 6:30, my mom, "Honey, something's wrong with the streaming. Your father's very upset. I don't know if you changed something accidentally, but we can't get in. Can you fix it?" I read it. Put the phone down. Made dinner. The interesting thing about watching someone realize what's missing is that it happens in layers. First, they think it's a technical problem, a glitch, something to be fixed. They don't immediately connect it to the person they removed from the group chat. That connection takes time. And during that time, they keep reaching out in the tone of someone dealing with a minor inconvenience, not someone reckoning with a consequence. That shift from fix this to wait, why is this happening is what I was waiting for. Day 5, Tuesday. The streaming had been gone for 4 days now. The tax email had been sent. The vacation was canceled, the deposit refunded to my card. The phone lines had 6 days left before the autopay would fail. The internet had 13. At 9:30 a.m., my dad called. I let it ring. At 9:31, a text, answer your phone. At 10:15, my Aunt Terry, Erin, I'm not going to be in the middle of this, but your father is very worked up. I haven't seen him like this. Please just reach out. At 1 p.m., I got a text from a number I didn't recognize at first. Youngstown area code. I opened it. Erin, this is Uncle Ron. Your dad asked me to reach out. He says you're not taking his calls. I don't know what happened between you two, but it would mean a lot if you'd pick up. Uncle Ron was my dad's older brother. We were friendly but not close. He lived 20 minutes from my parents' house. My dad had pulled in reinforcements. I typed back, Hey Uncle Ron. I appreciate you reaching out. This is between me and Dad. I'll be in touch when I'm ready. Sent. Ron replied, Okay. I told him that. Take care of yourself. That was the last text I got that day. At 7 p.m., I went for a run. 3 miles. Columbus in February is cold and gray, but there's something about running in cold air that helps me think without thinking, if that makes sense. My mind goes quiet when my legs are working. I came home, showered, sat on my couch. I thought about my father. Not with anger, I'd moved past the initial heat of it by now. I thought about him the way I think about a problem I'm trying to understand. Dennis Wells, 57 years old. Construction management, 30 years in the trades, worked his way from job sites to project manager. A man who valued visible work, physical work. The kind of labor you could point to at the end of the day and say, I built that. He'd never understood my job because my job happened on a screen, behind a terminal window, in a world he couldn't see. And because he couldn't see it, he'd decided it wasn't quite real. Not quite serious. Which meant I wasn't quite serious. In his version of things, I was comfortable. I worked from home. I had flexibility. I could afford to spot the family when they needed it because I was doing fine. And that's what you do when you're doing fine, you take care of your people. And if I ever raised a question about the arrangement, I was making things difficult. I was making it about money. I was being very disappointing. I didn't think he was evil. I thought he was wrong. Specifically and consequentially wrong. In a way that had cost me real money and real dignity over real years. And I thought the only way he was ever going to understand the shape of it was to feel the shape of it, not to be told. To feel it. 5 more days on the phone lines. 12 more on the internet. I went to bed. Day 6. Wednesday. I was in a client call at 10 a.m. 90-minute session. Server migration planning. 3 engineers on the other end. The kind of focused technical work that requires everything I have. When I came up for air at 11:35, I had a text from my mom sent at 11:12. Erin, your father's phone isn't working right, he can't make calls. He says it goes to a fast busy signal. Mine seems okay. Is something wrong with the plan? I sat with that for a moment. The autopay wasn't supposed to fail for 5 more days. The billing cycle hit on the 26th. It was the 20th. I logged into the carrier account, confused, and then I understood. My dad had gone over his data limit. He'd been calling and texting so heavily for the past 6 days me, probably other family members, maybe my Uncle Ron. Whoever he'd been trying to route through that he'd burned through his monthly data allowance early. And because the plan was structured the way it was, with no automatic top-up, his line had throttled to essentially nothing. Voice calls wouldn't connect properly. Texts would lag or fail. Technically, the account was still active. Practically, his phone had gone quiet. I hadn't planned that. It happened on its own. At 12:04 p.m., I got a text from a number I didn't have saved. Columbus area code, not Youngstown. I opened it. Erin, this is your father. I'm using a coworker's phone. Mine stopped working. I need you to call me. I read it twice. My father, using a coworker's phone, texting his son because his own line had gone dark and he couldn't reach me any other way. I thought about the night he removed me from the group chat. 11:47 p.m. One button. Removed. No conversation. No warning. Just gone. Like I hadn't been the one holding the phone plan together for 4 years. I set my phone face down on the desk. I had a 1 p.m. call. I prepped for it, joined on time, ran it cleanly. When it finished at 2:40, I picked up my phone again. I looked at the message from the unknown Columbus number. Erin, this is your father. I'm using a coworker's phone. Mine stopped working. I need you to call me. I typed back one sentence. I know. When you're ready to have a real conversation, I'm here. He replied in 4 minutes. Same number. What does that mean, a real conversation? Call me. It means we talk about everything, I typed. The phone plan, the vacation deposit, the internet bill, the taxes, the truck money you never paid back. All of it. When you're ready to sit with all of that, I'm here. Silence for 11 minutes. Then, you're really going to hold the whole family hostage over money? I read that twice. I thought about $14,580. I thought about being told family doesn't keep receipts while he bought $850 in fishing gear and drove to church on a truck I'd funded. I thought about being removed from the group chat at 11:47 at night for asking to be reimbursed for a vacation I'd booked with my own money on my own card because he told me to handle it. I typed back, I'm not holding anyone hostage. The phone plan is in my name. The internet account is in my name. The streaming accounts are mine. The vacation deposit was on my card. I'm just not managing things that aren't being treated as mine. This isn't you, he wrote. Someone's putting ideas in your head. I almost laughed. No one put anything in my head, Dad. I made a list. A list of everything I've covered for this family for the past 4 years. Do you want me to send it? No response for 20 minutes. Then, come home this weekend. We talk in person. I put the phone down and looked out the window for a while. Columbus in February, gray sky, bare trees, the distant sound of traffic on the highway. I'd spent a long time in this apartment solving problems from a distance. Driving up to Youngstown when someone needed a router replaced or a tax return filed or a phone plan managed. Quietly carrying things that were never supposed to be only mine. I picked the phone back up. I'll come Saturday, I typed. But I'm not coming to be managed, Dad. I'm coming to be heard. He didn't respond immediately. I sat there for a moment, then typed to my mom's number, which still worked fine. Mom, I'll be there Saturday. Can you make sure Dad knows I need us all to sit down together? She replied in under 2 minutes. Oh, thank God. Yes. Yes, Erin will be here. I'll make lunch. I set the phone down. 5 years of calling, driving, fixing, funding, carrying, and it had taken 6 days of silence to make him reach for a stranger's phone. I thought about that for a long time. Then I opened my laptop and started preparing for Saturday. I drove to Youngstown on Saturday morning, left Columbus at 9 a.m., made the 90 minutes in good time, pulled up to the house I'd grown up in at 10:28. My dad's truck was in the driveway, the truck I'd put $12,500 toward. I sat in my car for a minute, looking at it. Then I got out. My mom answered the door before I could knock. She pulled me into a hug that lasted longer than usual. She smelled like the same shampoo she'd used my whole life. I hugged her back. Whatever I was there to do, she wasn't the main target of it. She'd stayed quiet when she should have spoken up over the years, and I'd be honest about that. But the anger I'd carried for 6 days was aimed in a specific direction, and it wasn't at her. My dad was in the kitchen. He was standing at the counter with a cup of coffee, not sitting, which told me everything about how he'd chosen to enter this conversation. Standing up is a power position. He'd been doing that my whole life without knowing he was doing it. He looked at me when I walked in. I looked back. The table had 3 chairs pulled out. My mom had made sandwiches and set them in the middle like this was a normal Saturday lunch. I appreciated the effort. I sat down. My mom sat across from me. My dad, after a moment, sat. Nobody said anything for a few seconds. Then my dad said, "I don't like how you handled this." I nodded. I'd expected that to be the opening. "Okay," I said. "Tell me how you would have handled it." "You come to me directly. You don't pull the rug out from under the whole family." "I did come to you directly," I said. "In March of last year, we sat at this table and I told you the phone plan wasn't fair, and you told me you raised me for 18 years and didn't owe me a phone bill. That was your direct conversation." He started to say something. I kept going, not loud, not fast. "And then in February I posted in the family chat asking for reimbursement on $2,400 I'd paid for a vacation you told me to book, and you called it very disappointing and removed me from the group. You were making a scene. I was asking to be paid back money I spent for our family." He looked at the table. My mom was very still. I reached into the bag I'd brought and set the spreadsheet on the table. Printed. 2 pages. I'd done the columns cleanly. Category, amount, date, notes. "This is what I've covered for the past 4+ years," I said. "Phone plan overage, $6,200. Internet bill, $980. Vacation deposit, $2,400. Tax preparation, valued at what you were paying H&R Block before I started doing it, $1,600. Conservative estimate on tech support hours, $3,400. The truck money you promised back by April, $12,500. I put my finger on the bottom line. $27,080. That's what the last 4 years have cost me in direct money and services, conservatively. I'm not asking for all of it back. I'm not going to sue you. But I need you to look at that number and tell me that asking to be reimbursed on a $2,400 vacation deposit was making a scene." My dad looked at the paper for a long time. His jaw was tight. My mom put her hand over her mouth. "The truck," he said finally. "I told you I'd get to it." "It's been over a year," I said. "You told me April. Then you said soon. Then you told me family doesn't keep receipts." I remember saying that. "I kept them," I said. "I kept every Venmo, every wire, every transfer, not to use against you, just so I'd know the truth of things when I needed it." Silence. Outside, a car went past. The refrigerator hummed. My dad set down his coffee cup. He didn't look at me when he spoke. "I didn't think about it the way you're laying it out," he said. "I thought you were doing fine. I thought you helped because you wanted to." "I did want to," I said. "That's what you're not understanding. I wanted to help. But wanting to help and being assumed to help are different things. And when I raised a question about it, you removed me from the family group chat at midnight and told me I was disappointing." He was quiet for a moment. Then, slowly, he said, "I shouldn't have done that." It wasn't a full apology. It wasn't everything I might have wanted. But from Dennis Wells at a kitchen table in Youngstown, looking at a spreadsheet he couldn't argue with, it was real. I could hear it was real. "No," I said. "You shouldn't have." My mom was crying quietly. Not dramatically. Just tears moving down her face while she looked at the sandwiches she'd made. I reached over and touched her hand. "Mom." She looked up. "I know you know this wasn't right." "I should have said something," she said. "Over the years, I should have said something." "Yeah," I said gently. "You should have." We sat there for a while. The sandwiches went mostly untouched. My dad picked up the spreadsheet and read it again, slowly this time line by line. I watched his face move through it. He stopped at the truck line. $12,500. He looked up at me. "I'll pay you back," he said. $500 a month. I'll set up a transfer." "I'd like that in writing," I said. He blinked. I think that surprised him, the formality of it. But he nodded. "Okay. And I want the family contribution on the phone plan reset to the real number, what it actually costs. If anyone can't afford it, we talk about it honestly instead of just letting it sit on my card." "All right. And I'm not the family IT department anymore. If something breaks, you call a technician. If it's something simple and I have time, I'll help. But it's not assumed. He looked at me for a long moment. I think he was waiting for more, for the part where I asked for something unreasonable so he could push back and feel like he'd held his ground. But that was the list. 3 things. Real money, real boundaries, nothing punitive, nothing dramatic. You could have just told me all this, he said. I tried to, I said. You told me I was disappointing. He didn't have an answer for that. He folded the spreadsheet once, along the crease I'd made, and set it beside his coffee cup. Before I left, my dad walked me to my car. We stood in the driveway next to the truck for a minute. Neither of us said anything. He put his hand on my shoulder, briefly, the way he used to when I was a kid and had done something right. Then he went back inside. I drove home through the flat gray Ohio landscape, 90 minutes of bare fields and highway overpasses, and I thought about what had happened in that kitchen. Not everything was fixed. My dad wasn't going to become a different person because of one Saturday conversation. The instinct to assume, to take without asking, to reframe my contributions as generosity when it suited him and inconvenience when it didn't, that was deep in him. It didn't come out of nowhere and it wouldn't disappear overnight. I knew that. But something had shifted. Not because I'd yelled. Not because I'd sent a long emotional message at midnight about everything I'd carried. Because I'd quietly, methodically, removed the things that were mine to remove. And when he couldn't reach me through his own phone, when he had to borrow a coworker's and type out Erin, this is your father, like a man who had just understood for the first time how many things he'd taken for granted. That was the moment he felt the shape of it. You can't argue with the shape. You can only stand there and look at it. The $500 a month arrived on the 1st of March, exactly as he'd said. And the one after that. My mom started a separate Venmo request every month for the phone plan, her share, my dad's share, a real number this time. Caleb paid me back his portion of the vacation deposit without being asked. Aunt Terry took her line off my plan and set up her own account. She texted me afterward. I should have done this years ago. I'm sorry. I went back for Easter. I brought nothing except myself and a 6-pack of good beer. I sat at the table with everyone else. I didn't cook, didn't clean up, didn't troubleshoot the Wi-Fi issue my dad mentioned before we even got through the front door. I told him to restart the router. He figured it out. There's a version of this story where I held out for a bigger apology, a grander reckoning, something that looked more like justice. I thought about it. But I've learned that the people who owe you the most are usually the last ones to understand how much they owe you. And waiting for full acknowledgement from someone who still doesn't entirely understand what they took, that's a long wait for a thing that may never come exactly the way you need it. What I got was real. A man who had spent years making me feel like a resource finally, briefly, had to feel what it was like to not have me. 6 days. A list. And a text from a stranger's phone that said, "Erin, this is your father." He is. I didn't stop believing that. I just stopped subsidizing it. Thank you for staying with me until the end. If this story resonated with you, take a look at the other videos on your screen. I think you'll want to hear those too. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's a good time. I'll see you in the next one.